Hello friends, now the time to take the insights of the new avenues. We have made the flow of funds and how these types of things can be our talk of regular days. So we have the INVITs. INVITs is basically pooling the fund in a simple, in a pool of funds where the operational assets are brought and the investors take the unit, become the unit holders and they take the dividend in a regular way, which is SEBI regulated. So with this is a very new area and West Bengal is also witnessing many such developments in the time to come, such as Tajpur Port or Chinsura Kharagpur Port, Varanasi Kolkata Expressway and Dankuni Surat Freight Corridor. For this, we have the two panelists and one coordinator. First of all, I request CA Milind Gandhi sir to please come on the dais and take your seat and request everyone please give a big round of applause. Milind Gandhi sir is the CFO of Roadstar Infra Investment Trust and he is also the company secretary with 26 years of experience. He is working as an investment manager limited in Roadstars and his extensive knowledge in the area of financial accounting, reporting, treasury management, corporate finance, secretary and compliance, as well as taxes and audit. So I request everyone please give a big round of applause and request Umesh Podar to please come on the dais and felicitate sir with the Utteri and our memento as a token of love from the EIRC. Our second panelist is CA Gaurav Khanna sir, who is the CFO of Interise Trust and having more than 25 years experience in the real estate and core infrastructure assets management. He is also dealing with financial controls and equity as well as debt market and raising the funds as well as investor relationship. He is also taking part in negotiating terms of merger and amalgamations and has a joint ventures expertise. I request CA Madam Jigna Mehta Madam to please come on the dais and felicitate our panelist as a token of appreciation from our side. Now the time to call the lighthouse of this program who will give the light on the different perspectives and he will take the different knowledge and skills from the panelist and he is none than the CA NS Venkatesh sir. Please come on the dais sir and grace the occasions. Sir is the highly accomplished financial professional over more than 40 years of experience in India's banking and investment sectors. He is currently serving as a CEO of the Bharat INVITs Association. Prior to this, he held the position of CEO at the MFI. He has served on numerous committees and working groups of RBI. He is the former chairperson of the Fixed Income, Money Market and Derivatives Association and a member of FEDI. Additionally, he was an ex officio university in SEBI's Mutual Fund Advisory Committee. Mr. Venkatesh has spent 19 years in IDBI, where he holds several senior leadership roles, including CFO and executive directors. So I request CA Rajesh Jalan to please come to the dais and felicitate sir with the Utteri and our memento as a token of love from EIRC. And now the dice is yours, sir, and take this ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's always a privilege and pleasure to address the gathering of chartered accountants because it is our own fraternity and the contribution of chartered accountants to the growth of this country can never be underscored. Be it in finance, be it in treasury, be it in, let us say, the accounts, be it in audit, be it in taxation. We are there as chartered accountants, we are there everywhere, whether it is a young professional, whether it is a senior professional, it doesn't matter because all of us are working together to contribute to the nation's growth and ensure that the people who are going to invest into the nation's growth are clear that whatever is being presented before them has the sanctity of transparency, integrity, and data accuracy. Having said that, let me thank the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for giving an opportunity to Bharat InvITs Association to share with all of you about what is an InvIT, how is an InvIT structured, and essentially trying to sort of talk to my colleagues who are actually the practitioners of the industry. I'm just running an association where both of them have the expertise of running an InvIT, and before that, the infrastructure space as well. Because infrastructure is a very, very complex sort of a space. We have seen it in the past. We have had our own share of mishaps happening. We have recovered from that mishaps and we are on the growth path from an infrastructure point of view. But from an InvIT point of view, I would say that the InvITs are actually going ahead at a great pace. Let me share with you some of the slides which I thought will be of interest to you before I take the fireside chat with my colleagues Mithun and Gaurav. Let me also thank EIRC for doing this wonderful conference, especially relating to capital markets, because that market is the facilitator for the growth in the country because it facilitates both the investor side and the issuer side. So both sides are completely facilitated through the capital markets route. So it pushes the growth of the country to a maximum extent. We will not look at the technical knowledge. We will go through these slides quickly. This is essentially the membership of Bharat InvITs Association. All of them who are currently registered with Bharat InvITs Association as members are captured here. Our two friends from Interise and Roadstar, that is also captured there. So you can very well see they are contributing wonderfully well. The journey so far as an association, it was established in March 2024, and the main pillars of any association for that matter, whether it is the AMFI, which I had led for 6 years from 2017 to 23, or now the Bharat InvITs Association, the new kid on the block, is promoting transparency in the InvIT sector, advancing best practices across the industry, facilitating dialogue with regulators and government bodies, supporting effective policy making, and last but not the least, it's actually the most important pillar, enhancing investor awareness. So we believe that investor awareness is the key for bringing in more and more investors into this particular asset class. I will leave these slides because definitely we will ask our experts to talk to you. But to share with you, I would say that InvITs play a great role, a wonderful role. If you look at the current milestones since the inception, you will see that from a 2 InvIT in 2016, it has become 28 InvITs in 2026. The growth is phenomenal. If you look at the sectors that got covered, from the 2 sectors in 2016, we have actually covered around 8 sectors in the InvIT space. So how does the InvIT look at the project? The projects are essentially infrastructure projects. And how do we define infrastructure? Infrastructure is defined under the harmonized list published by Government of India, Ministry of Finance. More than around 24 to 27 sectors are covered in that. And those sectors, the InvITs can actually implement those projects and ensure that that asset class is actually on a fast pace. The current InvIT landscape is that we have 28 registered InvITs. 7 of them are listed publicly. The AUM is actually at 7.1 lakh crore. The InvIT industry has raised near about 2 lakh crore in equity. We have around 5.58 lakh unit holders. The market capitalization is nearly around 3 crore. And since the start of the InvITs, the InvIT industry has actually distributed around 91,000 crore. That means that the capacity, the capability of the InvIT industry is clearly demonstrated with this track record that they raised from the equity market around 2 lakh crore. They also have, let us say, debt raisings, and they have been distributing till date around 91,000 crore. I think in the last financial year, we did somewhere around 17,000 crore. So that is the sort of distribution that has happened. And if you look at the sector-wise, you will actually find roads are the predominant sector in the InvIT space. And we have brought to you the 2 leading minds in the road sector infrastructure space to talk to you as what are all the ways in which those projects are being managed. If you look at the domestic investor trend, you will find that actually the investors' contribution, whether it is the mutual funds, whether it is the insurance, whether it is the FII or banks, whether it's the provident and pension funds, have actually grown in all the years that you would have seen. So it has really grown. That indicates that the trust of the investors in InvIT as an asset class and as a mechanism for them to invest is very well accepted by the investor. So this is sort of the introduction that I thought that I will give it to you. In the state of West Bengal, what do we see? In the state of West Bengal, we actually see that essentially the budget gives a thorough focus for infrastructure. The central government is also focusing. That is clearly shown in the budget at around 11 lakh crore they have set apart for infrastructure. The state government, West Bengal, has actually set out 35% of the budget for infrastructure outlay. That is around 4.87 lakh crore is the total budget for West Bengal for the financial year 26-27. And out of that, 35% is for infrastructure. That means there is tremendous scope for infrastructure growth to take the GDP of the state at a substantial level going forward. And we believe that the InvITs will play a major role in ensuring that the various projects that the state government has talked about I would say one is the Varanasi Calcutta road. The second one is the Gorakhpur Siliguri road. So like that, various road projects are there in the offing. Then there's a deep sea port which they are talking. Then they are talking of, let us say, an alternate airport at Kalyani. So all those places, all those projects will attain fruition. So towards that, the state government will need to spend, and how do they raise the finances for that? So that is where the state government asset monetization will happen, and that state government asset monetization could happen partly through the InvITs, and we as the InvIT Association will be closely involved with the state government for setting the policy, identifying the projects, and ensuring that the InvIT structure is utilized towards that. We as an InvIT industry is already in discussion with a lot of state governments, be it Maharashtra, be it UP, be it Rajasthan, be it Madhya Pradesh, most of them. Just like my colleague had earlier mentioned from the REITs industry, I think both the associations, whether it is the IRA or BAA, have actually gone and talked to the highest authorities in these states to ensure that the InvIT or the REIT, whichever assets are going to be monetized, to use that particular tool. So I stop it, though there are different slides, so that it will give me an opportunity to talk to the experts and see how do we take this discussion forward. Thank you so much.
So I have two esteemed colleagues here sitting on to my left and right. Let me start off with Milind. Milind, can you explain the structure of an InvIT so that the entire audience understands the structure of an InvIT, and highlight the various regulatory things which are going into the InvIT structure?
Hi, good afternoon to all of you, and thank you very much first of all to ICAI EIRC chapter for inviting us, and also BIA for recommending me. Well, let me tell you, all of us, Calcutta is a soccer fever, but it also is has a very esteemed cricketing legacy. So, you know, speaking after a capital market kind of a what we just heard, where it interests everybody, including me, because that's where, you know, the money is made. So it's very difficult. As Rahul Dravid once said, it's extremely difficult to bat in one-day cricket after Tendulkar and Ganguly. So that's just the difficulty which we are carrying today to ensure that, you know, we make it very interesting for all of you. Having said that, look, first, infrastructure is the wall of India, you know, just the way Dravid was there. It's the economy, it's the highest, if I'm not mistaken, it employs and gives employment directly and indirectly to maximum Indians. You know, the employment structure, you know, the employment sector, which also, the infrastructure and the real estate sector employs the maximum number of employees. So, having said that, now let's move to the question here. So, InvIT structure is, I guess, in the morning you had a real estate RIT session, which our friend Neeraj would have explained in detail. But InvIT, I'll just tell you in brief, has a sponsor. A sponsor is generally, you know, it could be anybody, you know, who meets the criteria of SEBI as a sponsor can meet there. It has a net worth criteria of 100 crore. And as per the latest regulation, it has to hold 15% into RIT or in an InvIT for 3 years. And after 3 years, it can keep reducing the thing, and perpetuity mein 1% hold karna chahiye. That's what the sponsor's role is. Now, sponsor is a very critical thing because it is a fit and proper criteria is put on sponsor. So I'll give you a brief thing. I'm from ILNFS group. We all know what happened to ILNFS way back in 2018. After the government of India took over charge of and replaced the entire earlier board and appointed Mr. Kotage, the chairman, you know, the professionals like us were taken and to, you know, kind of steer it out. But one of the thing, while MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and SEBI both were inclined to have an InvIT structure, but that said that ILNFS don't meet a fit and proper criteria for a sponsor. So fit and proper criteria ke liye, we had to incorporate, take a specific approval from NCLT, and we had to incorporate a separate entity and create a sponsor. So that is the criticality which SEBI gives it to a sponsor. Even ILNFS, which was required, was managed by the government, but they said no. So even in future, if somebody has to buy the entire InvIT by the sponsor, SEBI's permission is required to when a sponsor changes. It's not that koi bhi aake, who has the money will just buy an InvIT and move on. That's not. So that's the sponsor. Now sponsor also appoints the investment manager, just like you have an asset. So in mutual fund, there is a trustee company, there is a mutual fund, and there is an asset management company. So I explained you the sponsor, which is akin to a trustee company. Then the investment manager is the asset manager. The only difference is in RIT and InvIT, the trust is listed. In mutual fund, it is the asset management company which is listed. So now coming to an investment manager, the investment manager is completely different from a sponsor. So it takes all the decisions of managing the InvIT, and it has completely, at least our board is completely independent board. Maximum of the criteria is also applicable, that it has to have an independent board. So that's on the investment management. The other key is obviously there is a PM, which we call it as a project manager, which has to manage the roads. Because see, creating a road, like in West Bengal, my company has a road which is known as Barwada Expressway Limited, which goes right up to from Durgapur and into the, I think so it ends somewhere near Dhanbad. So it crosses the state boundary also. That entire stretch of 100 odd kilometers have to be managed by a company which is known as project manager. So they get a specific fees to manage the road. So that's the third entity. And finally, the InvIT structure which is there, which has all the, जैसे Tata Sons है, जिसके नीचे सारी subsidiaries है, सारी companies है, वैसे InvIT के नीचे सारे assets होते हैं. We have 6 assets. Gaurav's company has much more assets. So those are the assets which earns either the toll, जिसको आप toll pay करते हो, that's the main income of those entities, and then they get consolidated at the InvIT level, which is the holdco thing. The structure is that of a trust, but it is also known as, it's akin to an holding company, and that's what gets listed. So this is primarily the structure. All the employees, etc., sits on IM, on the payroll of IM, and IM gets a specific fee, pre-decided fee, which it gets from InvIT as its remuneration for managing the trust. So this is the broad structure which is there for InvIT. Now various compliances and all, as we move forward, we will discuss. The typical aspects of taxation also I'll cover at an appropriate time during the discussion.
Thanks, Milind. Thanks for explaining it so well, lucidly. Can I come to you, Gaurav? Gaurav, what was the sort of journey for introduction of InvIT as a financial instrument in Indian market? And why do you think that InvIT is a very unique sort of an instrument?
So, see, up to 2014, 15 or maybe 16, I will say, infrastructure development in India was largely and solely funded either by balance sheets of the sponsor companies, developer companies, or by banks. That was the only two sources of, you would say, capital which was available to those companies. And by definition, they will be constrained on that. Banks will face an asset liability mismatch because they are funding projects at the construction stage where the money will come over later period of times, and the balance sheet of the sponsors can take a development up to a point of time. They will need more money to free up those capital. And in that situation, I think that the SEBI did a very right thing. They were already talking about REITs. And so one more thing, globally, it's all called REITs. In India, SEBI has made two very fine distinctions. It is called REITs and InvITs. That's the only difference. Globally, everything is called REITs. We call it real assets rather than call it real estate assets. It's called REAL asset, real assets. So the framework of InvIT provided an opportunity to monetize an erstwhile or rather still an infrastructure assets into a financial assets. What it essentially does is takes out all the debt, all the promoter balance money which has cooked it, put it into a trust which is sponsored or which is backed up by sovereign pension funds, global pension funds, mutual funds, which take up the risk, appoint the investment manager, and then run the business. So it provides a natural monetization for the vehicle, for the economy, and it solved a problem which is structural for the Indian economy, that how do you continue to build the infrastructure that is needed for the government, for the nation. I think that's a role which is important.
Thank you.
Today, InvIT is the intersection of what you say, a fixed income, an equity, and infrastructure asset. It has just, InvIT has helped translate that infrastructure asset into financial asset.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gaurav, for that wonderful sort of explanations that you have given to our audience. Milind, in the InvIT space, we have something called a public InvIT and a private InvIT. What is it that is making that difference? What is the difference of a public InvIT versus private InvIT, and whether there are, in a private InvIT, is it that the regulation is lesser, or is it standardized across the InvIT industry?
Yeah, so there is a difference, and I'll just take you through key differences because, getting into the detail of all the differences is not probably the agenda of the session, but, and it will take a lot of time. So Mr. Venkatesh just published, shot some data on the slide. We have 28 InvIT, out of which 26 are listed, and out of 7 are public and 19 are private. So, as all of us know, array private mein zyada hai, but that's not the way. For retail investor, it's the public InvIT which is there, and I guess same is the concept in REIT. But public InvITs is, the investor base of public and private are different. Private, as Gaurav mentioned, it's all, institutional investors, and I'll tell you why. The minimum ticket size in a private InvIT is 25 lakhs. Whereas minimum ticket size in public InvIT is 1 unit, which is of 100 rupees. So, you can trade 1 unit also, and it comes into demat. Both comes into your demat account. So that's the thing. So when you go for a public, it has InvIT has investor base which comprises of retail, HNIs, and family offices also can take, and institutional can also take. I mean, it's not a thing. But when you move to a private thing, the investor base changes. It's completely institutional, because rarely you'll see a retail investor would like to invest 25 lakhs. In fact, it was 2 crores maybe a couple of years back or last year. The regulator, a lot of presentations were done, so regulator changed it to 25 lakhs. We are trying our best to make it 2 lakhs or something, but Mr. Venkatesh and the entire association is following up. Let's see when the regulation changes. But currently it is like this, 1 unit and 25 lakhs units. And that's the investors also change. And hence the liquidity and the marketability of public InvITs for a retail investor is much better, because the liquidity would be higher because the ticket size is lower. The other thing then comes to the valuation thing. The valuation thing almost remains the same, but there is a tighter thing on the public thing where they have to do it every quarterly and all. Earlier private were not doing it quarterly, but when you look at last year, SEBI made quarterly accounts compulsory for all the listed InvITs. So I think so June 25 quarter. So obviously then we have to do the valuation. So most of the private InvITs are also doing valuations every quarter. But that's also one of the requirement when you prepare balance sheet under Ind AS. You have to test the valuation of your assets at every balance sheet date. Then comes to the compliance, and yes, the regulatory compliances are much stricter in a public space, public InvIT, which is slightly relaxed in private. But private also, if I'm an I manager, I'm a CFO of private. So I'm always on my toes with any event happening, anything happening on a taxation front, or anything happening on a, the accounts have to be updated and uploaded in the exchange within a stipulated time, and so on and so forth. So I don't see much of a change there. I guess public InvITs have slightly higher compliances which they need to follow. Some of the LODR things are not completely applicable to private InvITs, but that doesn't lead anything. All disclosures any which way कुछ नहीं तो कंजर्वेटिज्म के नाम पे भी हमारा compliance officer makes us do all the disclosures any which ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gaurav, have you seen a transition in the way the investors who had come in initially and now who are coming, whether different segments of investors are coming? How was it in the beginning and now how is it?
I think that has evolved over a period of time, and that's, I must say the evolvement is very fast. It's not that it's evolved over a long period of time. The transitions which you're seeing, I'll classify basically them into three, four stages. The first stage was, when the people who were backing the InvITs or providing the capital were sovereign pension funds and also the pension funds of the world. These were large institutional capital which had seen similar products worldwide, experienced the products and its benefits, and then willing to back the Indian infrastructure story. As markets matured, this I'm talking about 2018 to 21, we are the first private listed InvIT. Milind was starting, is one of the unique case of a stress asset becoming an InvIT. We were an offshoot of an L&T where wanted to monetize the asset along with the financial investors. So we are the first private listed InvIT. Up to that, 95% of my institutional money is coming from purely pension fund, that is foreign pension fund. So we don't have any tradable units. What we saw in 21, 22 is the mutual fund houses, domestic institutions coming into play, domestic mutual funds coming into play, family offices coming into play where we understood the project, and the product also matured. People saw returns, people saw distribution yields coming through. Even in COVID times, the roads were running. Yes, there was a 1 month which the government had put an embargo on transit. But all the infrastructure asset, I think one thing also wanted to add, all infrastructure under InvITs, 90% of them are regulated assets. It means there is a concessioning authority behind it. There is a regulator behind it. So very little can go wrong in that sense. People will not be doing too many cute stuff in the way they manage the assets or in the way they operate the asset. Those things are very key. There is a very strong regulatory framework behind it. So 2021, mutual fund houses, all the domestic money started coming in, long term but still. But 24 onwards, we saw a lot of profusion of retail capital coming in. NHIT started doing this. First, they introduced what they call the long term. They though did a bond, it was a retail bond of 20 years. First time we saw a bond of 20 years, it was a 20-year bond giving a 9.5% return. I think what better you can do at that point of time. But now when they went to the market, now when they come with the road InvIT, which is called Rajmarg InvIT, they've become a public InvIT. They start with the publics. So I think we have seen as the assets mature, as the product mature, this is what we are seeing. Next phase would be more in terms of insurance companies coming into it, a lot of retail presence. We are today, I think, around 6 lakhs investors in the public space, but very, very few in the retail otherwise. Private InvITs, like Milind mentioned, ours is 96% held institutionally. Same is the case with others. Not more than 5 to 10% float will be there for all.
Thank you.
One thing I'll add that there are mutual funds who are showing immense interest into this. They have approached us as well, and there is a mutual fund which has an AIF scheme which is going on right now. They have an AIF which is dedicated only to written InvIT. So they have if mutual fund starts acknowledging this as an asset class which they have, it's going to be quite a substantial movement in the investor base over a period of time.
Thanks for that supplement, Milind. Is InvIT, because we are talking to a set of investors as well as investment advisors, all of them are sitting there. Is InvIT a long-term or short-term investment vehicle? And according to you, who all should consider InvIT as a diversifying investment tool?
Yeah, I mean, long-term and short-term definition we saw in the previous session. Monday ko Nifty kahan khulega. So it all depends on the perception. But if you don't come to InvIT or RIT if you have a horizon of say 1 or 2 years, because this is really a long-term thing. And this, if you look at the asset classes internationally, equity, debt, the fixed income, they don't call it debt, equity, fixed income, and alternative asset class. So alternative asset classes, different thing like private equity and सब कुछ उसमें आता है, hedge funds, private equity, infrastructure funds and so on and so forth, and real assets or gold, silver, etc. Commodities, everything comes there. So alternative as a thing is an issue which is primarily on account of liquidity, and which is getting changed with the public units which I expected, which I explained previously, and also it has called as an appraisal value. You never get a market value because like equity or fixed income securities and an asset, which is also getting changed now with InvIT getting valuations on a regularly quarterly basis. So, that way it is quite transparent. So retail investors can look at it, or if you have a horizon which is not 1 or 2 years, please don't get me wrong, but this is really a long-term thing. And to be very honest, it is a fixed income plus kind of a category. It's not a primary and equity category. And when we move to what are the various distribution of the InvIT, we can understand that how a value is created and how one is compensated. So that way it is there that it's a long-term, and it is not something which is going to have a huge volatility because of the valuation and all being there, and a lot of transparency we have infused through regulations.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, just before the session, it was said there is going to be a multi-bagger. InvITs or REITs will never be a multi-bagger. So, but the point is that what we are providing is a 15 or 18% IRRs for a 20-year period, more or less certain. It will grow a little bit, volatility will be there, maybe 1 or 2% less or more in the year. But what the investors are looking at as an alternate to park their money for a 15-20-year period, yes, you will get any 15 to 18% returns. For a constantly yield basis, it will not be like it will all go to 30%. Infrastructure assets in India will never give a 30-35% because they are natural.
That's right.
A CAGR of 15 to 18% would have made even Rakesh Jhunjhunwala happy, because he said once that if I get 18%, I'm an emperor. I'll feel like an emperor.
Correct.
In 18%, rule of 72, your money gets double 4 years.
4 years.
So, that's a fabulous return. But yeah, it is not something ke aaj le liya saste mein, or what numbers we saw,
Correct.
20x and all is not going to happen.
Correct. It's a question to both of you because we are running short of time. Keep your answer in brief. What are the emerging trends, and what is the potential of industry growth in the next 4 to 5 years? Can I start with Gaurav?
I think 3-4 clear trends are emerging. One is obviously the retail participation is going to come. I'll keep it brief for the sake of, for the better. But I think more important trend is that the volume or the growth that we are going to see is going to be multifold. Today, InvITs are at 7 lakh crore. We have a clear horizon of reaching 20 lakhs, rather 25 lakhs in the next 4 years. The number of assets which are already under discussion between various InvITs is roughly around 25 lakh crore. But we are not counting the assets or the sectors which are coming into the InvITs. Things like airports, things like ports, things like anything under infrastructure, things like logistics parks, warehouses, all renewables, all this will be coming to the InvIT fold. So I think today when I speak 4x or 5x in the next 4 years, it is going to be 20x over the next 5 years. That would be it.
Milind, on the taxation structure, can you just throw light on how the InvIT's taxation structure?
I'll just quickly tell you. See, the taxation is a pass-through structure what we have in mutual funds. So InvIT, the trust which is listed, has 4 kind of income. One is the interest income, which is not taxable because that's what gets taxable at the end of the unit holder. Then second is the repayment of loans given by the InvITs to the SPVs, which gets paid. That's not taxed because that's a capital structure. The dividend issued by SPV are not taxable to InvIT. And finally, InvIT has another income. Like InvIT has an option of distributing money in 4 quarters or once a year. So whatever treasury income they get, that's a tax, and that's taxed substantially at a 42%. But that's a minuscule amount of the InvIT money. And why this is minuscule and extremely important transparency angle one has to see as compared to other infra companies. InvIT has no leeway. हम लोग जो भी कमाते हैं, whatever cash flow we have in our balance sheet as on 31st March, In the year-ending balance sheet, we have to, in a year, we have to distribute 90% of that. So if I have a cash flow of 100 crores, I have to distribute 90 crores. And that's where the number which the gentleman gave, 91,000 crore worth of money has been distributed over a period of last, whatever period we are talking about. So that's on the taxation. The other taxation critical part which has happened is the MAT credit has really changed a bit of the game for the entire industry. And we are working with SEBI and we are also working with finance industry, both RIT and InvIT, to see to it that, a level playing field is there. Because today, the MAT, in the old regime, the MAT has from 15 to 14%. The practicing CS would know that. And that's it. There is no credit which is taking forward. So when an SPV, then if it's in an old regime, then it will have a cost effective tax rate of 14%. Now if and it doesn't include any ATI benefits and all. Now when you move into new regime, anyway ATI and all is gone. So in new regime also, the MAT credit is not allowed to be carried forward. Nothing is sacrosanct. So to the extent the dividend which SPVs are declaring, that becomes taxable at the hand of investor, which is kind of a structure which we are trying to avoid. On the other question which Mr. Venkatesh asked on the structure, now look, InvITs are in United States from 1960. Australia is 1970s, and and India is a late entry. We entered in 2016 when first InvIT was there. The regulations itself came in end of 2014. So US has a AUM of $1.2 trillion. We are at what, 6-7 lakh crore.
36
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are 50 already.
Yeah. Then, Australia has 124 billion. Singapore has 77 billion. UK has 70 billion, and so on and so forth. So there's a huge potential for us, and we have already overtaken Thailand's and Hong Kong's of the world, which started this asset class much before us. So I see a lot of potential here. The new, it is predominantly sectors which is road sector, where we both belong to. Out of the 28, 17 are road. अगले 5 साल में ये composition change हो जाएगा. We will have new InvITs with warehousings, data center, and all those stuff which is there. There is also huge demand abroad about colleges, schools, and universities. India is small, but it has a perpetuity. The colleges and universities and school runs for ages taken together. It's not that the colleges get closed down. So that's the asset class which will come. And there are a lot of other smaller asset class which will be there, like VFX and all. But that I'm not too sure whether it will be sustainable. As a BIL level, we expect maybe the AUM to go up to 3x in next 5 years to 21 lakh crore. And as Gaurav rightly said, retail will emerge, and as the regulations move more forward, and this will be an alternate asset class with the liquidity as compared to a fixed income plus kind of a category. Thank you.
See, if you look at the basic principle of investment, the basic principle of investment is actually SLR principle. It's not the statutory liquidity ratio of a bank. It is actually safety, liquidity, and return. So this is the SLR principle that anybody looks at when they are going to invest. So on safety counts, the InvITs are very safe, well regulated, well governed. Transparency disclosures are there. And on liquidity, it is fairly liquid at this point of time, where if you have invested and you want to get out, you can actually sell it into the secondary market. And return-wise, like what Gaurav has said, returns are really give somewhere around 14-15% over a 15-year period, 20-year period sort of thing. So it's a wonderful assets to have. Since I come from the mutual fund sort of thing, where it's now a household name, the mutual fund sahi hai, and the industry itself, where essentially the industry is now around 85 lakh crore industry AUM. But I'm only trying to give you a perspective
The perspective is that 1964, the 1963 Unit Trust of India was set up, and US 64 was launched in 1964. And it took 50 years for the mutual fund industry to come to 10 lakh crore. That is, in 2014, the AUM of the mutual fund industry was 10 lakh crore. So it took 50 years. Whereas the InvIT industry, and plus if you couple the REITs, we have actually crossed the 10 lakh crore. We are at around 7.31, they are at around 3 lakh crore. So put together around 10 lakh crore AUM, we have already crossed in some 8 years sort of period. So that is the pace at which this industry is growing. And if you look at the potential, like what Milind had said, Milind had indicated 3 times, that is, as an association, we believe that whatever is the 7 lakh crore will become 21 lakh crore by 2030. So I conclude by thanking the association, thanking Mr. Vishnu. Maybe we will take 1 or 2 questions.
Due to paucity of time, we can take up the questions off the line. And just wanted to offer a formal vote of thanks first to the CM Milind sir, who has given the legal structure of this, how to operate, how this InvIT operates, which is a new asset class and very innovative asset class. So of course it needs a lot of research and a lot of opportunities for chartered accountants lying there, such as LODR or strict compliances or the valuations or the internal audits and a lot of things. So the new area of opportunity, but with a very deep knowledge, otherwise cannot be a simple compliance. CA Gaurav sir told about how the InvITs become a financial instruments and how the sovereign pension fund and bond can be utilized for the long-term investment, as well as how the transition phase came to InvITs and how the new India and new West Bengal can encase it in the time to come. As well as is emphasized about the 15% IRR, which is a good returns with the safety of these assets. So thank you both of you for coming here and giving the insights. And if I talk about the Venkatesh sir, he's a fantastic person who brought who in fact taken a lot of knowledge from the 2 panelists and brought to our audiences who are now more enlightened than the previous one. And of course, what the Prime Minister says, EI means all inclusives. So any country can progress only with the inclusive approach, and this new asset class will add some value. And sir also told them with the interference of NCLT through which they can take up this project so that it become a more and more transparent. So with these remarks, thank you so much for coming, sir. And ERC hands a lot thanks to all of you for coming here with the shortest period of time. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience.
Friends, we do have more and more powerful sessions ahead. The next session will be taken by none other than Ms. Lakshmi Iyer, who is Group President, Investment and MD and CEO, Bajaj Alternate Investment Management Limited. Friends, on the topic, navigating markets in the current environment. Due to health reason, Madam Ms. Lakshmi Iyer could not come physically, but she will be addressing virtually. Friends, after this session there will be lunch, and post lunch there are 3 powerful sessions. The immediately after lunch will be by Ms. Sonal Bhutra Malu, who is Assistant Editor and Anchor CNBC 18. She will be discussing on mutual funds beyond SIPs, opportunities, risks and strategies for today's market. Next penultimate session will be by none other than CA Ashish Bhayati, who is Head of Research, Profit Mart Securities. He will be discussing on breakout and momentum trading. And the last but not the least session will be by Master Ishan Jaiswal, who is of 13 years of age only, but he has developed the brain of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala with the help of AI. And he will be depicting all these aspects, stock analysis through AI. So let us come again back to our this session. Miss Lakshmi Iyer, she is Group President Investments and MD and CEO of Bajaj Alternate Investment Management Limited. Lakshmi Iyer is a distinguished financial service leader with over 27 years of experience in wealth advisory, fixed income, equities, real estate, and alternative investments. In her current role at Bajaj Finserv, she oversees investments across the group to maximize capital deployment. She is also responsible for identifying new investment opportunities across various assets classes within the permissible framework. With more than 25 years at the Kotak Group, she most recently served as CEO, Investment and Strategy at Kotak Alternate Asset Managers Limited, where she was responsible for investment advisory and product solutions across fixed income, equities, and alternates. She has been a portfolio specialist and managed product related initiatives such as product pricing and coordination with the funds management and sales teams. Throughout her career, she has led high performing teams in fund management and deal execution. Lakshmi is an MBA from NMIMS. Her fund management industry contributions earned her recognition as one of Asia's 25th most influential women in asset management by Asian Investor. She has also been featured in the Forbes W Power List 2022 and Forbes India Self-Made Women 2024. She was also honored as one of India's impactful CEOs 2023 by Times Now and recognized most promising business leaders of Asia 2024 by ETS. So, big round of applause for Miss Lakshmi Iyer. Madam will be speaking on navigating markets in the current environment. Welcome, ma'am, to our this Capital Market 4.0.
Thank you so much. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible. I'm not able to speak very loudly, but I'll try to the extent I can. सुनाई दे रही मेरी आवाज?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Firstly, apologies for not being there in person. कोलकाता में जब भी आने की बारी होती है मैं कभी छोड़ती नहीं हूँ बिकॉज आई एम नॉट अ टी कॉफी पर्सन लेकिन वहाँ की कुल्हड़ की चाय का स्वाद ही अलग होता है बट आई थिंक द कुल्हड़ चाय विल हैव टू वेट बिकॉज I was just telling the team that I've just come back from this most enriching trip of my lifetime. इसको vacation नहीं बोलूँगी. It's called the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. I finished that over 12 days and ट्यूसडे को खत्म हुआ और उसके बाद गले की ऐसी बैंड बज गई दैट आई हैव बीन ऑन डोलो एंड ऑगमेंटिन एंड ऑब्वियसली दैट काइंड ऑफ फिटिंग्स यू सो मच कि वो ट्रैवल का तो कोई सीन ही नहीं है बट यू नो when obviously you are doing all of this just for your own fulfillment for your own thing but bahut hi as I was waiting and listening to Venkatesh and the panel speak on InvITs and subsequently what is the kind of lineup that you have and I know aapka lunch ka session hai but I'm trying to give you probably more nuanced insights क्योंकि आप सारे market वाले participants हो ही already but the thing is that when I was listening to that conversation and the subsequent sessions that you have during the day one thing came to light कि predictability factor ना markets में है ना मानसरोवर में है. I think that is one clear thing that came out of my entire last 10-11 days of yatra experience. And कोई भी asset class हो, that asset class obviously requires its own khacha. It requires its own, I would say, slot जहाँ पे आपको उसको लगा के रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. That's point number two. And more importantly, navigating this kind of a market is so very important. And मैं आपको I'll just keep toggling between, because ये यात्रा जो है मेरे mind में बहुत fresh है. So I'll keep toggling between what I experienced in the last 12 days and what is really happening in the markets. तो जब परिक्रमा खत्म हुई, you know, everybody congratulated me saying that, oh fantastic, आपने तो कर दिया, it's very difficult, काफी लोग तो वापस चले गए and all of that. But you know, एक चीज आपको बताना चाहूंगी, and I'll just bring it back to the markets, that it was not about reaching the parikrama, not about doing the parikrama, but most importantly, how do you handle the uncertainty? इतने सारे जैसे बोलते हैं पड़ाव आते गए. It was constantly, permit नहीं आया था. For example, I had not got my permit, so I didn't even know, for example, whether I'm going or no. But the process जो है, process पे आपको भरोसा है कि नहीं? That was the most important thing. And continuing the journey despite the discomfort. There are so many people जिन्होंने आधी रास्ता खत्म किए नहीं कि वापस आ गए. So I think from a market standpoint, अगर आप इसको देखोगे तो the journey is never a straight line. जैसे आप चढ़ाई करते जाते हो, you are not going to be able to get a straight line. Markets are also exactly the same thing. Itinerary changes because of the weather, road condition change होते हैं, altitude. AMS का सुना होगा आपने, altitude mountain sickness. The altitude affects people very differently, क्योंकि आप mountain को control नहीं कर सकते. If I bring that to the market, I think markets also don't move in straight lines. Thursday को मैंने एक, I have a broadcast list, so in that I sent one broadcast saying that in the last 70-80 years, Dow Jones, of course, ये Dow Jones के ऊपर वो था picture, but the fact is that कितने सारे, every year there was a negative news. अभी तो recent is the Iran war, but इसके पहले there is some other war, there is another thing happening, there is constantly something or the other happening. Interest rate changes. यही साल में, in this year itself, you've seen interest rate move by almost 70 basis points. Geopolitical changes, policies are evolving, earning surprises. The point is that अगर आपको चोटी तक पहुंचना है, it is not going to be possible by you or me who is going to be able to predict every turn. वो तो impossible है. मैं तो लोगों को बोलती हूँ कि you have to be an astrologer or a liar or a lucky person to be able to do all of that. But the adaptability is super duper important. So I think that's a very important lesson for all of us, that ये देखिए, मार्केट यहाँ से कहाँ जाने वाला है ना आपको पता है ना मुझे पता है. अर्निंग्स यहाँ से हाउ इज इट गोइंग टू बी, वी डू नॉट नो. फर्स्ट इंटरेस्ट रेट हाइक यूएस में कब होगा, इट्स गोइंग टू बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू प्रिडिक्ट. Is there going to be a rate hike? We all know कि यार rate hike की possibility बहुत ज़्यादा है, and therefore we have to prepare. So I think preparation is going to be in your hand. Process को follow करना आपके हाथ में है. And to the point that Venkatesh made, that म्यूचुअल फंड की इंडस्ट्री कहाँ पे थी 5 साल पहले, आज कहाँ पे है. ऑल्टरनेट्स की इंडस्ट्री, इन्वेस्ट की इंडस्ट्री कहाँ पे थी, वेयर इट इज राइट नाउ. इट इज दैट प्रोसेस इन विच पीपल आर रियली इंटरेस्टेड. सेकेंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज दैट एंथुजियाज्म तो सबको है. जो उत्सुकता होती है कि बाजार यहाँ से कितना ऊपर चढ़ेगा, ऑल टाइम हाई दिखाई देगा, नहीं दिखाई देगा. बट preparation, जो तैयारी है, that is something which people seldom want to do. And when we talk about तैयारी, we are talking about the research. In the case of my parikrama, it was the medical test, acclimatization, packing appropriately. अभी वहाँ पे 0 डिग्री है. मैं जब बॉम्बे लैंड हुई परसों, तभी 31 डिग्री था, 31 डिग्रीज. आई डोंट नो व्हाट इज इट इन कोलकाता. बट द पॉइंट इज दैट acclimatization हर एक वेदर के लिए बहुत जरूरी होता है, बिकॉज ओनली हैविंग द एंथुजियाज्म टू फिनिश और टू बी एबल टू मेक योर वेल्थ. जैसे द प्रीवियस पैनल दे डिस्कस 14%, 18%, अगर आपको कंपाउंडिंग मिलता है तो 4 साल में पैसा डबल हो जाए, उसकी एंथुजियाज्म है. बट विदाउट प्रेपरेशन ऑल दिस एंथुजियाज्म केवल काफी नहीं है. आई थिंक दैट इज अगेन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड देयरफॉर how are you going to asset allocate in this kind of a market? अब पिछले 2 साल में लोग बोलेंगे equity market ने क्या ही रिटर्न दिया है. But let me tell you one thing, this quarter itself Nifty has given you 7% return. Annualize करोगे तो 80 टका आ जाता है. So I'm not annualizing it. Fixed income has given you 3% return. 3 अगर again 3 को annualize करोगे तो 12 टका पहुंच जाता है. So ultimately somebody who expected कि यार fixed income में आपको return मिलना ही नहीं है, that also delivered 12% annualized return. So I think संतुलन बनाए रखना बहुत जरूरी है. Navigating this market, you know, एक ही asset class की तरफ झुकाव, whether it is equity, whether it is real estate, whether it is gold, uh, whether it is fixed income, I don't think it is going to be a prudent kind of an thing. Liquidity. Again, you know, the previous panel discussed about SLRs, you know, safety, liquidity, and returns. Returns zaruri hai, lekin liquidity, and in that R, I would say it is SLRR. Our returns के साथ there is something known as risk management. That is also equally very important. देखिए, when we get carried away at one shot, again I'll bring my mountain example. The first day when you land in Lhasa, जो तिब्बत में है, एयर जो है ना काफी इट्स फंक्शनिंग एट मे बी 70% या 60% ऑक्सीजन लेवल. अब जो बिहेवियर आप बॉम्बे में बैठ के या कोलकाता में बैठ के करते हो, द सेम बिहेवियर कि चलो ठीक है फिर आते घूम आते, दैट सेम एक्साइटमेंट इफ यू शो, you will not be able to acclimatize. आप जाके हॉस्पिटल में लैंड हो जाओगे. You have to give, इसको बोलते हैं एक्टिव रेस्ट. You have to be restful in the body, but थोड़ा थोड़ा movement जरूरी है. So I think that is very very important in a market like this, because एंड मीम्स, वी आर ऑल ट्रैकिंग मीम्स. ओके, तो एक मीम जो है घूम रहा था पिछले 2-3 दिनों में कि मोर देन टेक्निकल एनालिसिस, यू नो, माई ट्वीट्स, ट्रम्प इज सेइंग दिस, ट्रम्प इज सेइंग माई ट्वीट्स हैव गॉट मोर इम्पैक्ट्स ऑन द मार्केट, व्हिच इज द रियलिटी ऑफ लाइफ. तो आई थिंक वो संतुलन, वो जो बैलेंस जो है, दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच वी आर गोइंग टू you know, really keep in mind, because markets will reward preparation more consistently than excitement. I think that is very very critical. The third lesson or the third learning in this kind of a market is don't compare your pace. यार अभी देखिए, फिटनेस जिसकी भी जो भी लेवल हो, अगेन आई विल ब्रिंग माय मानसरोवर एंड देन आई लिंक इट टू द मार्केट. यू नो, सम पिलग्रिम्स, कुछ यात्री दे वर वॉकिंग वे फास्टर, सम नीडेड ऑक्सीजन, सम वर टेकिंग रेस्ट एवरी 5 minutes, बट डेस्टिनेशन सबका एक ही था. I have no doubt in my mind that interest rates with a lag will come down. ठीक है, अभी तो खैर ब्याज दरें बढ़ रही है इंडिया में, all that is fine, but the economy is very resilient. We will get to know very soon how the earnings growth are panning out, but some results are already out and we know it's a mixed bag. But destination सबका एक ही है, तो आप अगले वाले के साथ कंपेयर ना ही करो तो बेटर है, बिकॉज इन दिस मार्केट और वेदर यू आर डूइंग योर यात्रा, आई थिंक कंपैरिजन इज गोइंग टू बी योर ओन एनिमी. यू हैव टू compete with yourself. आपकी शिद्दत क्या है, what is your asset allocation in mind? Like for example, yesterday in the investment committee, one of the members pointed out कि अच्छा हुआ you're not in small caps, because risk के हिसाब से it doesn't fit into us. Large cap and mid caps are okay. How are you going to prepare your portfolio in this market? I think वो बहुत बहुत जरूरी है, because markets are going to be uncertain. अगर कोई आपको अगले 2 घंटे 3 घंटे में, अगले 2-3 दिन में आके बता देगा कि I am sure telling you markets will only go up, then as I said, there is either overconfidence or he or she has absolutely no clue. So I think ये जो तलब है कि हमको क्विक पैसे बनाने हैं, आई थिंक दैट इज अ कंप्लीट मिसनॉर्मर. वी हैव टू कीप इन माइंड दैट स्टेडी वेल्थ बनाना बहुत जरूरी है, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट अबाउट विनिंग टूडेज रेस, इट इज फिनिशिंग योर ओन इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी वेरी वेरी सक्सेसफुली. सो आई थिंक दीज आर वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल. एंड अगेन आई गो बैक टू मेरा जो डाउ जोन्स का एग्जाम्पल है, जो मैंने चार्ट पोस्ट किया था. We started off with year, and every year there was some bad news every year, but the trajectory of Dow Jones was only going one way, which is upward. So I think keep that in mind in today's market. आज के market में भी there are ideas, there are equity options available, there are fixed income alternates available. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि आपको चवन्नी अठन्नी के strategy में डालना है. Today interest rates are going up. Actually globally interest rates की expectation यही है, it is only going to go up. But unfortunately वो क्या policy makers, जो central bankers across the world and bond markets का है, वो जय और वीरू का नाता है. So they are, you know, kind of navigating in the same scooter. Waiting गेम चल रहा है आज की तारीख में कि टू सी हाउ यूएस इज गोइंग टू बिहेव, और यूएस इज गोइंग टू रिएक्ट बिफोर वी एक्चुअली स्टार्ट हाइकिंग इंटरेस्ट रेट्स इन इंडिया. सो आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल. Last and not the least, I would say that basically faith, whether you are when you are doing the parikrama or whether you are in believer of the long term India story. I think ये बहुत बहुत जरूरी है that faith जितनी भी हो, जितनी भी आपकी श्रद्धा हो, इसका ये मतलब नहीं you will not have challenges. अभी ईरान का war who can predict? Nobody can predict, but you have to climb. When you climb you will struggle. और जैसे जैसे चोटी पे जाते हैं, मैं ये एग्जांपल बहुत बार यूज कर चुकी हूँ, but now having lived through it personally myself at 18,600 height on Dolmala Pass just 3 days back, and telling you that oxygen is at 50%, that doesn't stop you from reaching your destination. You will struggle because markets are also going to be about struggle. Believing in long term investment, हम सारे यहाँ पे है long term. I think इसके पिछले पैनल में long term और short term का discussion हुआ था. We are saying believing in the long term will not eliminate volatility, but it will give you the conviction to stay through it. आज की तारीख में आपको पता है 32,000 करोड़ का एसआईपी बुक है. आई नो द नंबर्स वेंट डाउन, द नंबर्स लोगों ने एसआईपी बंद कर दिया था, बट आई थिंक लगे रहना इस मार्केट में, डटे रहना इज सुपर सुपर इंपॉर्टेंट. सो आई थिंक नेविगेशन ऑफ द मार्केट इन दिस काइंड ऑफ अ मार्केट सिनारियो इज गोइंग टू बी फ्रॉड, फुल ऑफ स्ट्रगल्स. कठिनाई अपने को बहुत आएंगी, मैं आपको बता रही हूँ. आज भी एज अ पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर लुकिंग एट सो मेनी पोर्टफोलियोज, वेदर इट इज AIF, म्यूचुअल फंड, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, जनरल इंश्योरेंस, हर एक की परिभाषा अलग है, हर एक का गोल अलग है. इन अवर जनरल इंश्योरेंस पोर्टफोलियो फॉर एग्जाम्पल 85% वी आर इन फिक्स्ड इनकम, बट दैट इज द नेचर ऑफ द मनी दैट वी आर मैनेजिंग. वहां पे भी रिटर्न जनरेशन हमारे लिए बहुत जरूरी है. सो आई थिंक हर एक का जो लक्ष्य होता है, एंड आई थिंक फॉर दोज हु हैव सीन द मूवी लक्ष्य दे कैन रिलेट टू इट, कि हर एक का लक्ष्य अलग होता है. बट आई एम सेइंग दैट जैसे वहां पे ऋतिक रोशन का एक कैरेक्टर है, ही बिगैन विदाउट डायरेक्शन, बट ओनली व्हेन यू हैव डिसिप्लिन, फोकस एंड कंसिस्टेंसी, यू विल बी एबल टू रीच योर गोल. आई थिंक ये हमारे लिए बहुत जरूरी है. सम ऑफ यू माइट थिंक यार ये तो बहुत बेसिक चीजें हैं, बट एज अ फंड मैनेजर आई कैन टेल यू, ये बेसिक चीजों को अगर आप फॉलो नहीं करोगे, देन कंपाउंडिंग की स्टोरीज हम दूसरे लोगों की पोर्टफोलियो में सुनेंगे. As we heard right now that there is going to be a 13-year-old boy who is going to talk to you about his AI prowess and how to make money in the markets. So I'm saying that making money is all about discipline. Markets will not reward intelligence alone. We're all intelligent bunch of people in this room. सारे chartered accountants है, MBAs है, सारे अपना अपने सारे दिग्गज है. But केवल intelligence से market में आपको उसका पुरस्कार नहीं मिलता है. It will reward only discipline. I think it is going to be super super important. And you know, as a practitioner, 28 साल पैसे manage करके, I always tell this to my team also at different points in time that quarter से quarter तक हमको गाड़ी नहीं चलानी. For those who have seen Chak De picture तो आपने देखी होगी. That team lost so many matches. वो लोग मैच हारते भी है, जीतते भी है. But the process is something which they did not abandon. अगर आप process को छोड़ दोगे, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, नजर हटी दुर्घटना घटी. So I think don't because it is not in our hand. अभी कल मुझे कोई बता रहा था, what is your view on crude oil prices? तो मैंने of course उनको एक intelligent answer दिया. I told them कि look ये जो ड्रॉडाउन है ना, जो क्रूड ऑयल के जो पाइल्स ड्रॉडाउन है, इन्वेंट्री ड्रॉडाउन, जून में देयर वाज हार्डली एनी इन्वेंट्री ड्रॉडाउन. मार्च में काफी हाई हुआ था, विच मींस इट्स अ पॉजिटिव साइन. और दूसरी चीज, अगर आप जून 2027 का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देखोगे, इट इज स्टिल अबाउट 13-14% लोअर फ्रॉम द लाइफ हाइज दैट वी अचीव. सो आई थिंक ये सबको देखते हुए क्रूड ऑयल में ऐसा कोई अपने को दिक्कत दिखता नहीं है. दिस इज अ व्यू दैट यू टेक. पर अगर आपके व्यू के परे, हमारे व्यू के परे, if crude goes back to $90-100, the equations are going to be very different. That will lead to a steeper short-term correction. पर वो आपको हमको डिफाइन नहीं करता. आई थिंक इट इज वेरी वेरी कंसिस्टेंट विद द फैक्ट दैट अगर आप लगे रहोगे, एंड दैट बीइंग इन द मार्केट, यू नो, ट्राइंग टू बी कंटिन्यूअसली एट इट. हमको हमारे गाइड पता है क्या बोल रहे थे व्हेन वी वर डूइंग द यात्रा? टेक बेबी स्टेप्स. यू कैन वॉक फास्ट, नो प्रॉब्लम, लेकिन अगर आप ज्यादा फास्ट चलोगे, बिकॉज ऑक्सीजन की कमी है, आपकी सांस फूल जाएगी. सो यू प्लीज वॉक स्लो, प्लीज वॉक स्लो, टेक बेबी स्टेप्स एंड टेक मल्टीपल पिट स्टॉप्स एंड हाइड्रेट. सो आई थिंक सेम थिंग इज यूजफुल फॉर आर. आज की तारीख में पोर्टफोलियोज में ऑफकोर्स last quarter was a good month, a good quarter, no doubt about it for the markets, but अकाल छाया हुआ है portfolios में. Portfolios are dehydrated. So I would say please rehydrate your portfolios and don't chase returns. It's going to be very difficult क्योंकि अगर आपका एक ही एंड गोल है कि यार ये स्टॉक कहाँ पे जाएगा, ये स्टॉक पे मेरे को व्यू देना, निफ्टी अब मंडे को कहाँ खुलेगा, ट्यूसडे को कहाँ खुलेगा, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी आवर ऑब्जेक्टिव. आई थिंक वी हैव टू कॉन्स्टेंटली कीप दैट इन माइंड दैट देखिए इंडिया इज अ रेजिलियंट कंट्री. इंडिया का ग्रोथ अभी वर्ल्ड इज गोइंग टू ग्रो एट 3%. India will grow at maybe double of that. US is going to grow at 2%. यूएस में रेट हाइक हो सकता है, पॉसिबल. यस, फेड फंड फ्यूचर्स बता रहा है आपको रेट हाइक होना है, बट लुकिंग एट द यूएस ट्रेजरी यील्ड्स, इट्स लुकिंग लाइक यील्ड्स हैव काइंड ऑफ पीक्ड आउट. सो इट्स काइंड ऑफ गिविंग यू एन इंडिकेशन कि जो बैड न्यूज है वो इंक्रीमेंटली ज्यादा जल्दी प्राइस इन हो रहे हैं. But how do you and me decide? At every sign of trouble, if we are going to take a U turn, destination will never be reached. So I think patience, persistence, overnight heroics अपने को नहीं करना है. That is how the wealth is going to get. Because today's market has optimism but high uncertainty. ये headline में हमेशा बने रहेंगे. कभी कभी कुछ चीजें सराहनीय होती है. Some things are very very frightening. It is an emotional outburst because अगर हम emotion से react करेंगे, whether it is in the mountain or in the market, it is going to be very very difficult to reach our destination. So I think be focused. Be extremely simpleton. अगर लोग आपको complicated चीजें बोलते हैं तो my request to you, all of you, is please ignore it. It just doesn't make sense for you. And I know we are in the midst of lunch, but my last 2 points to you is that यहाँ से market, I have no two ways and no doubts in my mind that the next way forward, if I take a 5-year journey from here, yahan se agar aap kooch chadaएं, तो the markets are going to be higher. But to give you a prediction of the next 9 days, 9 hours, 90 days is going to be extremely impossible. So please do not obsess over every market headline. हर एक headline को देखते रहोगे तो we all will have to only pop sleeping pills and we will only, or anxiety pills, we will not be able to focus on it. So I think destination is something which I will be clearly focused about. And अगर आपके portfolio में 80-20 है, 80% equities है, 20% fixed income है, then come what may, because of market distortion, अगर आपका portfolio का संतुलन खो गया हो, please rebalance it. You do not require any rocket scientist to tell you this. ठीक है, you may have advisors, distributors, take their inputs and collectively do it, but I think it is very very difficult. And I think my last 2 lines to you is, and I'm right now very overwhelmed because abhi main Mount Kailash ki parikrama karke aayi hu, so therefore that is overpowering, but it's very important for you to know when I stood before the Kailash, एक चीज मुझे बहुत अच्छी तरीके से ध्यान आई और and it kind of stayed with me, that the mountain doesn't become smaller because of my worry. It becomes conquerable only because we keep walking. So the parikrama that I finished was only because I kept walking with baby steps. And in the same way, when I gave you the market analogy, the markets are no different. ये जो volatility है, that is the mountain. ये जो discipline है, वो आपका रास्ता है. Patience जो है, वो आपका oxygen है. And your long-term wealth hai, that is your destination. So I think this is my final crux to you. I think if you prepare, you persevere, you be patient, and more importantly, stay humble. आपको एक चीज मैं बताऊं, बहुत ही interesting चीज, and this is my exact last point. There were a lot of fit people जो EBC, ABC वगैरह करके आए, and they said यार हमको सब कुछ आता है, हम तो कर लेंगे. I kid you not, आधी परिक्रमा खत्म करके वो लोग निकल गए and उनको they are still feeling that miserable feeling. So market is your ultimate teacher. Mountain is the one that you cannot conquer. You have to be humbled. So markets will always give you a humbling experience. आप जितने भी expert हो, ultimately when you with patience and perseverance, when you take that journey, that is when you realize that these are very practical inputs. Very very practical inputs, and it is so relatable. So my request to all of you as I conclude my talk is that देखिए, don't be obsessed. ऑब्सेशन से कुछ नहीं होना है, एक्सेसिव एंग्जाइटी से आपका काम बनने से ज्यादा बिगड़ेगा. द पीपल हु केप्ट डूइंग रिसर्च रिसर्च रिसर्च, दिन में 10 यूट्यूब देखते रहे, उनको तो दार्चन पहुंचे जहां पे जहां से परिक्रमा शुरू होती है, उनको तो सागा से ही भेज दिया गया, बिकॉज देयर palpitation was so high, their pulse rate was so high, oxygen ठीक था but pulse was very high, they couldn't complete the parikrama. So I think hold your horses, this market moment is going to give you a lot of halchal. पर धमाल मचाइए, because ultimately धमाल का season है and धमाल season 4 has just got launched. So I will pause here. I know it's in the midst of lunchtime. If we have any questions, happy to take. Else, of course, you can connect with me offline as well. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello. Many, many thanks, Miss Lakshmi Iyer, for your nice deliberation despite your throat condition and all. Many, many thanks. A big round of applause for Madam.